Shalom to those that might be watching this a little later. Shalom. Gotta fix something. Shalom, shalom. I want to start this off with a precept. Is it? Shalom. I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to the one true power, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well through the Spirit. And a mighty shalom to the hopeful elect that are scattered four corners of the earth in the same spirit, teaching this word and believing this word, and willing that they all can continue to endure and be sincere in the same sound doctrine of the Spirit. And shalom to the Akwathiam, believers of this faith and this truth, the willing that you continue to pursue your lot, which is being a loving and silent and virtuous wife. And Lord, willing to also have mercy on the other brothers and sisters that's not in the faith. The water, I guess the sound is clear. I'm going to start off with this verse before I say anything. This is 2 Chronicles, the 15th chapter, verse 13. That whosoever would not seek Yahweh, power of Israel, should be put to death, whether small or great, whether man or woman. Right? So if you're not seeking the Lord, right, you should be put to death. Right? And truly, when we come in this knowledge, we should be, getting the understanding, the mysteries, the secrets, the prophecies, the dark sayings, the parables, in the law, in the Psalms. So when you go into this word, seek, it's darash. And it has multiple meanings, right? These are a few: to resort, seek with care, seek deity in prayer and worship, to seek with demand, to investigate, inquire, to practice, study, follow, seek with application, right? To be sought out, right? Or to be sought, right? So we should come in this thing to investigate diligently, right? To search out, we should be investigating the scriptures. So this is inspired by a live, and I did a video, a quick one. It wasn't too crazy, too deep, just used precepts that I felt to bring out. But dealing with a debate that Captain Tazariak of the ISUBK had with a fellow named Dwayne, but his name that everybody know him is Debunking Hebrew Israelites. And Lord willing, I can find it. Right here. Hold on one second. Gotta get to a part where you can see it, for you can see. So this is Captain Tazariak and Dwayne having a debate on salvation, two views on salvation, whose understanding is more biblical sound, right? It was a 3-hour joint. I actually watched the whole thing after I got done doing my 12 chapters. After I got done reading my 12 chapters a day, trying to start that. But I wanted to hear brothers bring out the word. It didn't matter if it was, prophecy or not, really dealing with great millstone. But, a lot of times I have to observe if, the other so-called congregations, if they teach us something wrong, catch them slipping, right? And this was a second debate, and really debating Dwayne would be so pointless, right? Because especially being an Israelite, and he's not going to get it, that is truly a waste of time. It's truly a waste of time. But through this power of Yahweh Shem Shah, he allows those things to happen. Because guess what? It can help, brothers do videos on it for other sheep that might not have the understanding. Somebody can be watching that and have a different point of view that might not line with the precepts and the understanding of Ephesians chapter 3, verse 1 to 7, because first they was talking about Hebrews, the 11th chapter, verse 39 to 40. Then that got done, and it was just the same thing over and over again. Then they made their way. Then Dwayne wanted to get into salvation or the kingdom being established. So he went to Ezekiel 37. And then he jumped from Ezekiel 37 from verse 15 to 27 to Ephesians chapter 3 and verse 5 and 6. Now, I understand what Captain Tazariak was saying, but this man could not, Dwayne could not get verse 5 and 6 and saying they're not going hand in hand, and would it say, which in other age was not made known, he fell when Ezekiel was prophesying of the kingdom of Israel that he knew. But Captain Tazariak was saying he didn't know when it was going to be established. So he asked him, where is a verse where Ezekiel know it's going to be established? And then he said, oh, you're changing the goalpost. So right there and then, for Captain or anybody, you should have just, that back and forth, this is why it's no point. Then truly, we're supposed to be out here for the believers. So Lord willing, this is edifying, and we can get some sense, some true sense to Ephesians chapter 3 and verse 7. But I'm going to go to what Dwayne tried to go to first. And, through the power of Yahweh Shem Shai, I had did a live on Ezekiel the 37th chapter. I mean, even on YouTube, but I did one on TikTok, I believe Sunday. I did the whole Ezekiel 37. So, and it's amazing. You go to work and then I see this video. So let's just go to the point where he was at, and then we'll actually dive into Ephesians, the 3rd chapter that he jumped to. So this is Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, in verse 17, which this is a prophecy that haven't happened yet, right? So he's basically foretelling the future. That's what the future is about, right? So verse 17, it says, and join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thy hand. This is talking about Judah and Ephraim, the southern and northern kingdom, becoming one kingdom. And when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, wilt thou not show us what thou meanest by these? Say unto them, thus saith Yahweh by Shem Yahushai power, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel, his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. And the sticks whereon thou writest shall be in thy hand before their eyes. Now, when you jump in the beginning of Ezekiel, he's talking about speaking the breath of life. So even in the time of the New Testament, right, because majority of, the New Testament is really the southern kingdom, and only like a good handful of the northern kingdom is with them. but the northern kingdom was majority over here. So fully, when we talk about the fulfillment of the Gentiles, it's really fully fulfilled in this time, but it was established in the New Testament after Yahushua went up to the Father, and then it started with Peter in Acts the 10th chapter, but that was to bring forth the understanding of the Gentiles, right? The clean and unclean. And then the Lord really set up the preaching to the Gentiles through Paul, through Paul's ministry, right? And Peter understood about the Gentiles because it happened to him in Acts the 10th chapter. But the ministry being pushed and taught was through Paul, right? So that is the start of teaching the so-called Gentiles, the dispersed or the foreigner Israelites, right? And when you think about the falling away of Israel for 350 years, we did not have no understanding, and we went back into a grave estate. Revelations, the 11th chapter, verse 8 to 10. But then verse 11, the Lord started putting a breath of life in us after that 350 years. What is it? 1619 to 1969. Now the Lord is allowing His truth to be spread, and brothers are standing on their feet, right, and getting the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. So now the so-called Israelites, because all of us is scattered four corners of the earth, and technically we're dispersed, and we're foreign Israelites, foreign to the land and foreign to this understanding and to this knowledge, because we didn't have it for 350 years, right? So going back, Ezekiel is prophesying about speaking to these bones, and those bones that's coming to life are the Israelites. So even in the time of the New Testament, some of the Jews, starting with Judah, then Benjamin and Levi, right? They started to they were in a circumcision where they were following the laws, and they still understood the Lord. The gospel was being brought to them because of Yahushua was dwelling with the Jews, right? And then later on, the Lord was sending it out to the Gentiles, and they were growing into the understanding. And that even goes with them getting the breath of life in that time. But when it deals with the southern and northern kingdom to fulfill the time of the Gentiles, that was the start of it to bring us to where we at right now. Lord willing, that makes sense. So going to verse 21, it says, "And say unto them, thus saith Yahweh Shemashai power, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whether they be gone, and will gather them on every side and bring them into their own land." So even when, of course, we had different times, the Babylonians, then the Persian Medes let us go back to the land. In the Greek captivity, we was in the land. In the Roman captivity, we was in the land. But all Israel wasn't in the land. So the northern kingdom was somewhere. Even majority of some of the southern kingdom, they was even in Alexandria. They were in Ethiopia. We were in multiple different places. So this is really fulfilling the end time prophecy of the 12 tribes of Israel being gathered back into their land, becoming one stick. Nowhere in history after Ezekiel we were one stick if the northern kingdom, majority of them was over here in the western hemisphere, right? Again, this is future prophecy. Verse 22, it says, "And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all, and they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all," right? Being under Yahushai, David, the 12, and the rest of Israel, right? Verse 23, it says, "Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I will save them out of all their dwelling places, wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their power. And David my servant shall be king over them, and they shall have one shepherd, and they shall also walk in my judgment and observe my statutes and do them, and they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant, wherein my father have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, even they and their children and their children's children forever, and my servant David shall be their prince forever." Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them, and it shall be an everlasting covenant with them. And I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forever. Right? This is dealing with our everlasting covenant. It says, and my tabernacle also shall be with them, and I will be their power, and they shall be my people. And the heathen shall know that I, Yahweh, do sanctify Israel, purify, cleanse Israel, and when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forever. Because even Isaiah prophesied being a light to the Gentiles. Later on, we're going to hear through Hosea that they're not even called a people, right? Things get worse and worse, but the Lord is using the prophets to prophesy a future event, right? Ezekiel was speaking about the 12 tribes just as a whole. If we're falling away, all of us don't know who he is. In the time of Yahushai, majority you hear of the southern kingdom, right? Now, even in this time in the Babylonians, when you go to Judith or you go to Tobit, let's say Tobit, right? He was from Naphtali, and that was during the time when the Assyrians took them over, right? But majority of the northern kingdom was over here. So even the Lord still had some of the northern kingdom still in the eastern hemisphere, right? So even when we get into the New Testament, you don't hear about Ephraim, Gad, or you don't hear them by tribe, but you hear about Jews. Then you know in Revelation, the 12th chapter, when Herod was afflicting the three stars, which is Judah, Benjamin, or three parts of Israel, which is Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, because those were the majority of people living in the land, and he was afflicting them. They're known by name. And when they was saying Jews, it was mostly they were speaking to Judah, but they were calling Judah, Benjamin, and Levi because that's the southern kingdom, right? So even when we see about Ezekiel, this is a future prophecy, and to have common sense, if the northern kingdom was all the way over here, this gospel or this full truth wasn't even fully taught to the northern kingdom if majority of them was over here. So this is a future prophecy where what we just read did not say no date, but we understand that this is the end time because the everlasting covenant haven't fully been established. But then let's go to a history precept in First Chronicles, the 16th chapter, and it doesn't say nothing about the other nations. This is what Dwayne and many other people cannot realize. This is why precepts is very important. So First Chronicles 16 in verse 13, it says, O ye seed of Israel, his servant, ye children of Jacob, his chosen ones. He is Yahweh our power. His judgments are in all the earth. Be ye mindful always of his covenant, the word which he commanded to 1,000 generations, even of the covenant which he made with Abraham, and of his oath unto Isaac, and have confirmed the same to Jacob for a law, and to Israel for an everlasting covenant, saying unto thee will I give the land of Canaan, the lot of your inheritance. So the land belongs to Israel, which we see in the verse that they're going to be taken from four corners of the earth and brought to their own land. But it said that into Israel for an everlasting covenant. And that was the descendants of Jacob. And the descendants of Jacob got the covenant, the oath that was given to Isaac, the law that was given to Jacob and all our forefathers, and they get the everlasting covenant, which we just read in Ezekiel 37. And all these heathens is going to know that Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is our power, right? That he was dealing with us, right? What else did it say? He said, he's going to, I will place them and multiply them and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yeah, I will be their power and they shall be my people. Now, if it's all different nations being the Lord's people, it would say peoples, right? Because if you say nation, that's still dealing with a people. But hey, that's neither here nor there. It says the heathen shall know that I, Yahweh, do sanctify Israel. How can somebody, you can't make this spiritual Israel, right? To even be spiritual Israel is to be an Israelite inwardly, but still nationality, you still Israel, right? But hey, neither here nor there. When my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forever. So now let's jump to Ephesians, where this brother just went. Instead of just reading verse 5 and 6. We're going to read verse 1 all the way to 7, and we're going to add the precepts to it. So the title of this lesson is The Mystery Made Known. And it's truly made known through Hamashiach Yahushai. That was the whole point for Hamashiach to be on the scene. Right? So this is Ephesians, the 3rd chapter, verse 1. For this cause I, Paul, the prisoner of Yahushai Hamashiach, for you Gentiles. And when we're speaking of these Gentiles, we're speaking of the dispersed, the foreign Israelites. Right? It says, if ye have heard of if Salaki, if ye have heard of the dispensation of the grace of God which is given me to you word, how that by revelation revealed he made known unto me the mystery, as I wrote afore in few words. Right? Even when we go to Matthew the 13th chapter, where the disciples saying, why you always speak in parables? Earthly story, but a heavenly matter. He said it's for you to know the mystery, but for them it's not given. Right? And this mystery is truly given to the Gentiles that believe. Every Gentile ain't gonna believe. Every Israelite is not gonna believe. Right? But those that do believe, because again, we go to Ephesians 1, it's all about those that were predestined, those that were sanctified already in the heavens and the earth, those that were with Yahushua when he created, because this is a story, right? So now when we go into Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 9 and 11, the things of old is not remembered. Why would he not let you remember anything? Because guess what? You come back on this earth and you live out your lot again, but you have no memory of who you was. That's amazing. The Lord is a beautiful author of this thing, right? But let's actually get in some precepts, right? Let's go to Acts, the 22nd chapter. Lord willing, we can dissect this and keep it nice, short, and easy. This is Acts chapter 22, and we're going to read verse 17. But I might actually read I'll read up. This is verse 14. It says, and he said, the God of our fathers have chosen thee. Who's the who's the fathers? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob have chosen thee, that thou shouldest know his will, and see that just one, and shouldest hear the voice of his mouth. For thou shalt be his witness unto all men of what thou hast seen and heard. And now why tarriest thou? Arise to be baptized and wash away thy sins. Call on the name of the Lord, which is Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. And it came to pass that when I was come again to Jerusalem, even while I prayed in the temple, I was in a trance. Right? This is Saul. Right? He's in a trance. Right? Let's keep just reading all the way down. It says, and saw him saying unto me, make haste and get thee quickly out of Jerusalem, for they will not receive thy testimony concerning me. And I said, Lord, they know that I imprison and beat in every synagogue them that believe on thee. And when the blood of thy martyr Stephen was shed, I also was standing by and consenting unto his death, and kept the raiment of them that slew him. And he said unto me, depart, for I will send thee far hence unto the Gentiles. Right? So the Lord, through the Spirit, was going to send Paul to the Gentiles. Right? Now, let's jump to 26 and 16. This is Acts 26, verse 16. I am going to start at 14. It says, and when we were all fallen to the earth, because this is when Paul becomes blind, it says, and I heard a voice speaking unto me, saying in the Hebrew tongue, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. And I said, who art thou, Lord? And he said, I am Yahushai, whom thou persecutest. But rise and stand upon thy feet, for I have appeared unto thee for this purpose, to make thee a minister and a witness both of these things which thou hast seen, of those things in the which I will prepare unto thee. Deliver them from the people and from the Gentiles, unto whom now I send thee, to open their eyes and to turn them from darkness to light, and from the power of Satan unto God, that they may receive the forgiveness of sins and inheritance among them which are sanctified by faith that is in me. Right? So only those that have faith are going to be sanctified, purified, and cleansed. Right? So again, we went to when you go to Acts chapter 22, this is in from verse 1 to 5 is dealing with Paul's testimony. And from verse 6 to 13, Paul meets the Lord. And 14 to 21 is dealing with God's choice of a witness, right? And that witness was Paul, right? This is where we establish speaking and teaching the Gentiles. And where we was just at, what did he just say? He said, verse 18, Acts 26:18. This is a key point. To open their eyes and to turn them from darkness to light, and from the power of Satan unto God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins. What is sins, man? This is supposed to be able to understand what is sins, right? We can go to 1 John, the 3rd chapter. What is sin? Verse 4. Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law. But we talking about the law that are in the first 5 books of the Bible, right? So now, this right here is going to let us know who Paul is really talking about, right? We can go to Psalms 147. This is Psalms 147, verse 19 and 20. He showeth his word unto Jacob, and his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgment, they have not known them. Praise ye Yahweh. So no other nation was given the word or the statutes and the judgments, which is the law. But it says he showeth his word. The word, who is the word? The word is Yahweh Shai. Right? We got Ezekiel, right? Eat the whole roll. You got Jeremiah writing the word. You got Moses. You got who else? Who was it? Tobit. The angel said, man, write all these words and put it in the book. Ezra's rewriting the first 5 books of the Bible. This word was only given to the children of Israel. Deuteronomy 29:29. The secrets are are unto the Lord, and they're revealed unto us and our children's children. Let's get 2nd Ezra, the 3rd chapter. We just heard him say that he's speaking his word to those, for those that have sinned. Basically, that they can get forgiveness for sins. If the law was only given to Israel, when was it? Where in the scriptures were the other nations sin? Yes, all nations sin, but to sin, you have to be given the law, because sin is transgression of the law. So if you understand the scriptures, you're going to go to these scriptures and understand the law was only given to one people on the earth. This is not flabbergasted. This is not trying to add anything in. Oh, you going back to the old, because the Yahweh Shai said he comes in a whole volume of the book. When we go to Galatians, the 4th chapter, verse 5, it says that the Son of the Heavenly Father came to redeem those under the law. So if it's talking about law, not, oh, this is talking about his commandments. No, this is talking about the law, statutes, and commandments. Yahweh Shai didn't take away from what the Lord already established. He came to bring something new was going to be established through him. Not the law was done away with, right? Now we get to come in this thing by faith. But hey, don't take my word for it. Let's get into the scriptures. This is second Ezra chapter 3 and verse 34:5. It says, or when was it that they which dwell upon the earth have not sinned in thy sight? Or what people have so kept thy commandments? Whosoever thou shalt find, certain people in Israel who have kept thy commandments, but thou shalt not find any among the heathen. Right? I believe this is probably saying it in the GNT, but no other nations kept the precepts. What is precepts? The law. Why did they not keep the precepts? Why they didn't keep the law? Because it wasn't given to them. Now, if nations converted, like some people cleave to our ways and converted, but that doesn't mean it was given to them. They converted to our ways. When you convert, you just change from what you were. You change your behaviors. Your law say we can't eat pork. Okay, I'm gonna stop eating pork. If a nation do that, they do that. But was they given the law? No. And we just already read that in First Chronicles, dealing with First Chronicles 16, dealing with the covenant, the oath, and the law and the everlasting covenant. It didn't say nothing about the other nations. And when you say other nations, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, guess what? Abraham don't cover all nations, because you got Ham, that's not nowhere part of Abraham. You got Japhites, that's not part of Abraham, right? And not all Hebrews, right, come out of the loins of Abraham. Abraham had 8 sons, and one of those sons was given a promise. We see in Galatians the 4th chapter, that's Isaac. And then Isaac had 2 sons, and the promise went to Jacob. The law went to Jacob. It didn't go to Esau, but Esau is a Hebrew. And then it went to Jacob's descendants, the 12 patriarchs. This is a puzzle, right? So now that we established that, let's go to Romans, because I think I'm gonna read this in both translations, right? Because we want to devour each piece. So this is Romans 11:25. It says, "For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceit, that blindness in part is happened to Israel, until the fullness of the Gentiles become in." Right? This is really talking about um, until it be fulfilled that all the Gentiles come into Hamashiach. Let's read the NLT. It says, "I want you to understand this mystery, dear brothers and sisters, so that you will not feel proud about yourselves. Some of the people of Israel have hard hearts, but this will last only until the full number of the Gentiles come to Hamashiach." So when I said earlier, this was about in dealing with Yahushua and then going into the apostles. Paul was supposed to bring forth the gospel to the Gentiles, but it wasn't even done yet, because majority of the northern kingdom was over here. Then all the apostles, the last one alive was John the Revelator. After that, what happened? Rome fell. Yahushua had the keys to the bottomless pit. They were locked up, or they just was brought down low in the grave for about 1,000 years, 800 to 1,000 years. Then they came out. Then eventually it was reestablished through the Renaissance, which is called the rebirth. That's where Rome, through the Vatican, starting with the Borgia family, they reestablished and started to restructure their empire. But it was in Europe. Then whenever they got established, they sent some people over here to the Western Hemisphere and started bothering the Northern Kingdom. But they was hearing about riches, animals, and such and such and such. But that was all the Lord to establish the small horn in Daniel the 7th chapter, verse 8. And this is the thing. Going back and forth with somebody, you can't really get in there and start teaching, because we're supposed to edify. And every verse that I'm saying or whatever I'm quoting, you can go look up this verse. You can look up these verses and read it. Now, if you don't got understanding on it, hey, I got videos on it. The Elder Apostles and the Men of Great Millstone affiliates, they got videos. And the Brothers I Label, we got videos on it, right? But just pay close attention. So after John the Revelator, which is the last apostle in Revelations, after he dies of old age, is no more teaching. Now you go to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3. Before Yahushua is revealed and come back, it has to be a falling away. The falling away was after John the Revelator, after the last apostle. We go to 2 Ezra, the 7th chapter, in verse 28 and 29, right? Those that were in Yahushua, starting with the teachers, right? They died too. Then it was no more teachers no more. So now it was a falling away from the ministry, from believing in Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, slowly but surely. Really, when we go into the falling away, truly is like around the 69, 70 AD, when the temple was ran over by Vespasian and Titus, and 1 million Jews fled to the African mountains, right? So then later on in the verse of 2 Thessalonians 2 and 3, it says, then the son of man, not the son of man, the son of perdition shall be revealed, right? The man of sin is Esau. That's the son of perdition, right? That's going to be revealed. And then verse 4, go with him, because it was pointing out that he was going to make himself like God. And that's only Esau. But that was later on to establish the Renaissance. And we're in a time, if it was a falling away, when was this man revealed and spoken about? Not in the time of the fall of Rome, because that was the falling away. Now we're getting into Revelations, the 11th chapter. Instead of starting at 8, you start at 7. You start at 7. So when we deal with us becoming into a dead estate, nobody was teaching for 350 years while they were trying to establish their empire over here, physically getting beat, going here working less dollars, and by the time of 1969, then the word out of nowhere came. So what does that mean? Paul was establishing it, the teaching of the Gentiles, and it led all the way to John the Revelator, and then it was done. So what does that mean for all the Israelites that are scattered 4 corners of the earth after all the apostles is dead? That mean what we just read, the fullness, right? Let's go back to the Romans 11 and 25. So now we're fully in the time of the Gentile time being in its fullness, right? That they all come to Hamashiach Yahushai. So let's read that Romans 11 again, because I just said all of that. The fullness wasn't in the time of Paul, right? Because the Israelites is still on the earth. But guess what? 2 Esdras 2 and 7, our names was removed out the earth. So what was we called? Right? We call African American, man. This is Romans again, verse 11 to 25. For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceit, that blindness in part is happened to Israel, right? And even with that falling away, blindness happened to us. None of us knew who we was. It says until blindness in part happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles become in, right? So basically until the Gentiles believers come to Yahushai, right? The basically all the Gentiles. So after the apostles is done and the Lord did what he did in that time, was people on the earth still calling themselves Israelites? For the 350 years, was anybody calling themselves Israelites? No, because our names was removed out of the earth. Psalms 83, they did crafty counsel so the name of Israel wouldn't be remembered. So 4 corners of the earth, Jake did not know who they was. But then the truth started to spring out in New York in 1969. So now brothers is teaching the word, and through the Spirit, you were doing Christmas, doing the holidays. You were a Gentile, right? Let's go to Ephesians chapter 2, verse 11. And all this pertained because when Paul was speaking to people in Romans, he was speaking to Israelites in Romans, right? Even though they were doing things that pertained in Rome, they were still Israelites. When he was speaking to the Galatians, he was speaking to Israelites of Galatia, right? And those are still people of the same kindred, same bones, and same flesh. When he was going to the Ephesians, when he was going to the Corinthians, all these books is only for Israelites. So in every situations in the Romans, the Corinthians, the Ephesians, the Galatians, Corinthians, right? These was all to Israelites. So this is why when brothers are bringing out the scriptures over here and over here and over here, it's all to go back to one people, the Israelites, right? So even if what he's saying into Rome, you can bring out whatever he's saying in Rome and bring it out to the Israelites in the book of Ephesians, right? Because in Rome, didn't they Wasn't they Gentiles in the flesh? When they was in Galatia, wasn't they of the flesh? When they was in Corinthians, was they of the flesh? Yes. So Ephesians 2:11. Wherefore remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called circumcision in the flesh made by hands. So if the Gentiles, which is really nation or nations, right? But then you got other meanings for it, people that's following not the true God, following paganism, such and such and such. But even the nations in the Old Testament had their name, had their nationality. When you go into the Babylon of Timbuktu, I always bring it up. I didn't bring the book with me, but when you go and read the book of Babylon of Timbuktu, it says in the ancient kingdoms from Rome and Greek and all the other kingdoms before them, everybody went by a nation or a tribal name. So this is in the time of Rome. So even in Rome, people knew what nation they was. When they were in Rome, you had certain people that knew that they were Idumeans, right? But eventually, over time of educating, Esau took away those things, especially in Europe, where they started calling people a colored name. A colored name. That was not in Rome. That was not in Greek, right? And even in Greek, they wanted you to follow their ways. In the real Greeks, which is Javan, right? Those were Japhites. And that land was Japhites. Esau took that thing over, but it was all to orchestrate what the Lord was going to do, right? So when we're speaking about in Ephesians 3, it's really dealing with Israelites. So now let's go back to Romans and let's read Romans 16 and 25. This is Romans 16 and 25. Now to him that is of power to establish you according to my gospel, in the preaching of Yahushua HaMashiach according to the revelation, right, the revealing of the mystery which was kept secret since the world began, right? This secret was kept secret. But now, wait, hold on. This was kept secret from the world. How is it being revealed? Through the scriptures. What was the apostle, what was Yahushua reading? He was reading the Old Testament. What was the apostles reading? The Old Testament. When we even go into these letters, yes, they were spoken of in their time, but they were always going into the law, the Psalms, and the prophets, because it was things pertaining to their time. Just like for us, all this is written for our learning, because even for the old, we get to remember the covenant, the law, the covenant, the oaths, right? And all the promises and the miracles that the Lord have done, the miracles that Yahweh Shai done, his teaching, how we supposed to teach, how we supposed to walk, and the teaching how Paul was speaking to Israelites that were moving in a Gentile mindset, moving in the flesh like Gentiles. That helps us in our time now, because Jake is everywhere in every country moving like Gentiles. Most Jake, unless they changed it themselves, every Jake do not say, oh, I'm a Hebrew Israelite on their ID. It's either you're saying you black or white, and it says that you're either African American, you Polish, Dominican, or Italian or Cuban. It's not saying no Israelite, because they removed that. We're just waking up through the spirit that we know who he is. Our spirit bear witness with their spirit that we are the children of the Lord, right? So the same thing, what they did back then, they're preaching this word. How? Let's go to Romans, the 10th chapter. And we're going to go back so we can read verse 26, right? The Lord, just going back to fulfilling the Gentiles where we at right now, fulfilling this moment, right? The Lord had to raise up prophets, raise up teachers, right? Just like how you got to get raised up step after step, lesson after lesson, understand after understanding. Now the Lord is moving you to teach this word. Romans 10 and 14, it says, how then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? How are we going to call on Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai and even being raised just like Timothy? I was raised to be an American. Wasn't taught none of this truth, being from foster home to foster home, right? So how am I going to call on somebody that whom I have not believed? How shall they believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher? So even when Paul is speaking in Ephesians, how they gonna understand what is being said about Yahushua, about this mystery? And even if he speak about Ezekiel, and then that fulfillment is gonna happen through Yahushua, how they gonna believe in that unless Paul comes and actually teach this word unto them, right? It says, and how shall they preach except they be sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace and bring glad tidings of good news. This good news is for the children of Israel, let alone this good news for the other nations, because now you about to be ruled in righteousness under Yahushai, under the 12 and 144,000, and the rest of Israel is going to be over you too, right? But it says somebody has to be sent. So we see in Ephesians, Paul is being sent to give the understanding of this ministry. Guess what? Ezekiel 37 cannot happen until this word is taught to all the believers. We're not taught, we're not out here, like I'm around, it's Jake that's seeing me in their car. I don't know if they're really looking at me, but I can see them, they can see me, right? Who's to say that all of them is going to believe in this thing? Now, some of them are going to start to believe when chaos comes. Ezekiel 33, verse 33, right? This will come to pass, and then that day they're going to know a prophet was in the midst of them. Everybody's not going to believe just off of you just teaching. Some people are going to start to believe when chaos comes. And it might even be too late at that time, right? Because those that Paul, even like when we look at the people of Berea, when Paul and Silas and them was teaching his word, right? They had a readiness of mind to hear it, basically shut up and hear it. Then they searched the scriptures daily to see if it was so what this person was saying. And we don't see later on, oh no, you was wrong. Because that's the whole point. Listen, let somebody bring it out, give you the understanding. Then you're going to search all the scriptures that they kept saying daily. When you were saying this, they even quoting, hey, go read this chapter. Go read this. Hey, this and that. They quoting that verse. And they're going to read it daily to see if this was so. And guess what? The Spirit of the Lord, if it's actually dwelling with you, you're going to understand it. And guess what? That is same example what we're doing now. Brothers is teaching. Don't just take the words that I'm just saying, my mouth, or he explained it this way. You want to go to these scriptures too and be like, okay, he lined this up, that what? Oh, snap, dang, that makes sense. Okay, now that he said all of that, since he reading Ephesians 3, let's read Ephesians 1. Because if I'm already reading Ephesians 3, Ephesians 1 is not going to contradict Ephesians 3. Ephesians 3 is not going to contradict Romans 11. Because if it's only for Israel, anything that you read is not going to contradict if the Spirit of the Lord is with you. Isaiah 8 and 20, KJV, NLT. It says, if you are trying to contradict the word, the light is not in you. I believe that's what it says in the NLT. If we don't speak according to the law and the testimony of this word, there is no light in us. And the spirit, the testimony of Yahweh Shai is the spirit of prophecy. So him bringing forth this mystery is going into the prophecy of speaking to the Gentiles, right? Which truly, when Ezekiel was talking about the 12, there's 2 sticks, even the Israelites are called Gentiles, because even in that time, all Israel did not know who they was. Then when we deal with the northern kingdom and they fell away from what they had, and then Esau came here and told them, hey, change your name to English sounding names. Anybody can go look up the Dawn's Act. They made Indians, real natives, right? Gad, Reuben, and all Jake that was over here changed their name to English sounding names. When you watch the movie Roots, when they made him change his name from Kuta Kinte to Tobit, right? Change his name from a Hebrew name to Toby. Guess what? That was another example what it says in Isaiah, 65:15, Jeremiah 17:4. The Lord is going to call us by another name. Going into the Dawn's Act, we had to change our names, right? So you changing your name to an English sounding name, and then they establish not like saying Hellenization, but they put their culture on you. Guess what? You're not a Hebrew Israelite. You're not eating clean things. You're not keeping the Sabbath. You're not dressing how a woman should dress. You're not being in order where you a woman and you under your man, right? You telling your man this and this and that, and now the man got to deal with secretly, or he got to do all of this and do all that. Guess what? We're not moving like men or women of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, right? Just giving a sense. Okay. Um, I want to get one more, and then we're going to keep going on Ephesians. It's Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 19. It says, and for me that utterance may be given unto me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mysteries of the gospel, mystery of the good news. Part of this good news is that uh, Jake, you're gonna be ruling over the nations. That's good tidings. The other part of this good news is that the Lord is trying to bring back the 12 tribes back how they was before. That's why in Amos 9:11, right, he's gonna rebuild the tabernacles of David. Amos, in the time of Amos, the northern kingdom was over here. So how can you rebuild the tabernacles of David if the northern kingdom not there? That means eventually we're going to be teaching the northern kingdom somehow, some way. But even in that time, they didn't know when that was going to happen. The northern kingdom was gone. How they was going to know what's going to happen? Somebody had to prophesy it. So when we look at Ezekiel 33, verse 33, it will come to pass, right? And then you'll know a prophet's in the midst of you. Or when you go to Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 1 and 3, actually, let's actually go to that one too, because that's a mystery too. That actually give you understanding on prophecies or even a parable that's speaking of a heavenly matter. Yeah, Habakkuk. Let's get that. Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 1. I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. Right? This you're gonna get the correct message, right? It says, and Yahweh answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. Of course, you go to NLT, it says that person that's going to run with it, he's going to run with the correct message. For the vision is not yet for appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, and it will not tarry. Now, this would have been, even this would have lined up if Captain Cesariak would have brought this out when he was going against Dwayne, right? But of course, he's going to hand, because this is a debate, whatever, however you want to go, right? But to edify the sheep, you got to understand when we're bringing out prophecies, what he was saying that this did not happen yet. So this is a future prophecy. You could have just went to Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 1 and 3, right? This is a prophecy. It will happen, but it has a point, a time when it will happen. It won't tarry, but it will happen. Now that we see, as soon as the Lord established teaching the word to the Gentiles, this is where it's getting appointed to start. But just because it start, it has to have an ending. The ending is coming all the way where the northern kingdom is at the ends of the earth, starting in North America. Then what did they do? They scattered them in other places. Then they brought the southern kingdom here, and then scattered them to other places. So now the word is going multiple places. The Lord built up this dumb America, and now we got this internet where you can teach, and now the word going multiple places because of the unicorn. You got brothers in Australia, brothers in Africa, brothers in Brazil, brothers here, brothers in Europe, brothers in Paris, brothers in brothers is everywhere teaching his word for the fulfillment of the Gentiles, right? So that all of them could come into Yahweh Shai. That's the whole point, right? So now we go back to Ephesians 3, verse 5. For in other ages was not made known unto the sons of men, right? As it is now revealed unto his holy apostles, starting with Peter, then Paul, and such underneath Paul and them that was teaching, and prophets by the Spirit, right? Because even in the time of the apostles, it was other disciples raising up under them that was teaching this word and going out, right? When you read that verse 5 in the NLT, come on, man. It says, God did not reveal it to the previous generation, right? He didn't reveal the mystery unto them, right? Even when Isaiah was speaking about be a light to the Gentiles, People was thinking about the other nations. Now, kingdom-wise, yes, we're going to be a light to the other nations. But that was talking about being a light to the Gentiles, how the Lord set up Peter when he came through speaking to Cornelius, and then those people start getting the Rakakwadash. But then the ministry got established through Paul, and he was being a light unto the Gentiles, man. He was being that light to the Gentiles, right? But it wasn't revealed unto them the same way that like Paul and them. Just like when you go into Daniel, the 7th chapter, when he was breaking down the 4th beast, when you go into 2nd Esdras, I believe the 12th chapter, the Lord said he expounded more on the 4th beast than he did when he spoke to Daniel, right? So all those prophets got a certain taste or example of what was going to happen, but they didn't fully get the mystery. They just said what the Lord told them. Because even the Lord say to the people, the children of Israel, such and such and such, boom, boom, boom. And they had to go teach it and go tell them. But they didn't have the breakdown and the understanding because it wasn't going to be fulfilled in their time, right? Oh yeah, read that again. NLT, and God did not reveal it to previous generations, but now by his spirit, he has revealed it to his holy apostles and prophets, right? In that time. Come on, man. This right here is amazing, right? Let's see if we can get a precept on this, right? You go to Ephesians 3 and 9. It says, oh, what am I? Hold on, okay. It says, and to make all men see what is the fellowship of the mystery, which from the beginning of the world have been hid in God, who created all things by Yahweh Shai Mashiach, right? This was all hidden to the Lord, right? Hold on. Let's get another precept. So if this was hidden to the Lord, how did it come out? The Lord has appointed time. We've seen in Habakkuk. It's all for appointed time. This is Deuteronomy 29. I'm going to read verse 1. It says, these are the words of the covenant which Yahweh commanded Moses to make with the children of Israel in the land of Moab, beside the covenant which he made with them in Horeb. So the verse 1, Moses is speaking to the children of Israel. So now let's go to verse 29. It says, the secret things belong unto Yahweh our power, but those things which are revealed belong unto us and to our children forever, and we may do all the words of this law, right? So these secrets belong unto Yahweh, but those things are revealed unto us. But then we go to Daniel 2, right? The secrets is revealed to the wise, right? Psalms 25:14, the secrets is revealed to those that fear the Lord, right? So of course the wise is the prophets that are going to teach this word, because we've seen in Romans 10, you can't know or believe in the Lord unless the Lord sent a preacher to you teaching in the name of the Lord and giving you the understanding of that, and then giving you the understanding of the law, the parables, the dark sayings, and the prophecies, the mysteries of the Lord, right? And then those that's going to understand is those that fear the Lord, because you can't get these secrets if you don't fear the Lord, having a high reverence, a high respect for the Lord, and to be terrified of the Lord. When we first started 2nd Chronicles, the 15th chapter, verse 3, those that don't seek the Lord is going to be put to death. They're going to die. And we see in second Esdras 15 and 3 or 4 that the unfaithful are going to die in their unfaithfulness. When Moses was called faithful in Numbers 12 and 7, Moses was a faithful servant. Look up the word faithful. It goes into a supporter of the door. Moses spoke of Yahushai. So who's the door? St. John 10 and 27, or St. John 10 and 9. Go look it up. Yahushai is the door. He is the way. You know? Come on, man. So these secrets is only revealed to the children of Israel. So Paul is speaking to the children of Israel, right? So how in certain areas he talking about the law, especially when we go to Galatians, even though that's in Galatia, that don't mean that it don't pertain to the people of Rome, because those are the same people. So if he said that Yahushua came to redeem those under the law, then you go to Luke, the 1st chapter, verse 67 down, where the Lord raised up a horn of salvation out of Israel. Make it make sense. To deliver you from your enemies. Why is he not speaking about the other nations? Zechariah is prophesying. That's whole end times, because we did not get delivered from our enemies and those that hate us. Right? Man, this Bible is unlimited with information. Do I want this one? Oh yeah, this is the verse that they were talking about all night. This is Hebrews 11, verse 39 and 40. It says, and these all having obtained a good report through faith, receive not the promise, God having provided some better thing for us, that they without us should not be made perfect, right? And the better thing that he made for us is Yahushua, right? Because back then they had faith. Like Rahab, she had faith in the Lord and allowed the spies to come in the land. She knew what the Heavenly Father had did. That does not mean that she's going to be of the elect. No, that Hebrews 11 was just speaking about faith. And then it's talking even about us. Because now that Yahushua came in, the Lord had provided something better for us, which is Yahushua. That's why brothers is always saying, why is brothers putting the law over Yahushua? Yahushua oversees the law. Really, Yahushua has authority over us, not the law. We establish the law, but Yahushua rules over us. Right? Especially when we get the kingdom, he's going to be the head. He's going to be the ruler on the earth, man. The law don't. We're going to establish the law. The law is going to be written in our inward parts. We're going to be dwelling, walking with Yahushua, having conversations. The law going to be in you. You're not walking with the law. The law not talking. Yahushua is the one talking. Yahushua is the one that puts you in hell, right? In a condition, or put you to death. The law don't. The law don't, man. It's all Yahweh Shem Al Shai. The heavens and the earth is orchestrated by Yahweh Shem Al Shai. You can't get nothing in this world without Yahweh Shem Al Shai, either good or bad. The law don't do that. It's all through Yahweh Shem Al Shai. So of course you got to exalt Yahweh Shem Al Shai. We got something better, and that is Hamashiach Yahushua, man. Let's get another one. Ephesians 2 and 20. It says, and are built upon the foundation of the apostles and the prophets, Yahushua Hamashiach himself being the chief cornerstone. Ephesians 4 and 11 and 12. And he gave some apostles and some prophets and some evangelists and pastors and teachers for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Hamashiach. If that was going on back then and brothers is edifying now, that means the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the teachers of the word is back on the earth. Building who? The Gentiles. Building up the Israelites who had a Gentile mindset. The whole earth still is not accepting that we the people. Everybody, those are the Hebrew Israelites. They still look at us as niggas, Puerto Ricans, blacks, Spicks. Because the word fully hasn't been pushed on all of us yet. Then it's good. Like even when it says 2nd Ezra 16th chapter, it says, then they will know who my chosen is. In that moment, we gonna really be knowing who the real people of the Lord. And when these prophecies come to pass, people gonna know who the real prophets is. Sometimes y'all might think, oh, that guy is the prophet, that guy is the prophet. But then when the prophecy of the MOTB come, brothers, a lot of y'all gonna say, wow, GMS was right. Even the you brothers and sisters that is following GMS, you are of that cloth. So if the Lord was using them to bring forth the prophecy and bring that correction, if they're right, you're right with them because you're part of that body, right? Brothers talking about Jacob trouble. Brothers is talking about the 2/3 coming back in the kingdom, right? That understanding is true. And guess what? You're going to know that those was the true prophets. When it came about teaching all the dang time, right? This wasn't about being a celebrity, about money. This was all about the elect. Those that's pushing the elect, the elect all the time, saying the elect, teaching only for the elect and not teaching for everybody, not trying to build a community. In that time, y'all, they gonna really know, oh yeah, those was the real prophets, because they was always trying to teach the elect. It's the same thing that happened back then. Come on, man. When people knew that Paul was a teacher for the Gentiles. Then when they would bring out Isaiah, they'd be like, yo, it made sense. Because if Isaiah was speaking about it and this haven't happened until after Yahweh left, and then he established it first, what happened with Peter, and then established with Paul, that's going to be the same in this side. Right? So Ephesians 3:6, it says that let me read 5 again, which in other ages was not made known unto the sons of men, as it is now revealed unto his holy apostles and prophets by the Spirit, that the Gentiles should be follow heirs and of the same body, and partakers of his promise in Hamashiach by the gospel. Right? And you got to know, the Lord deals with nation. So what nation in this word Gentiles is he dealing with? Right? Let's go to Galatians. Let's go to Galatians, the 3rd chapter, and let's read verse 28 and 29. It says, there is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Hamashiach Yahushai. For if ye be Hamashiachs, then are ye Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. Now, how can you use this for a Hamite? No, because he's not even a seed or a descendant of Abraham, because it says seed, right? You can go into sperma, you can go into offspring, but then you can't even use this for Esau. You can't use this for Ishmael, because it said, and heirs according to the promise. Who was the promise given to? Literally, who was the promise given to? Right? Let's go to Galatians, the 4th chapter, in verse 28. It says, now we brethren, as Isaac was, are the children of promise. Isaac was the one that was called for the promise, right? No other nation, right? You go back to Genesis. Who was given that promise? Isaac. And Abraham had 8 sons. Then the Lord even told Abraham to listen to his wife, because she said, hey, yeah, no, they got to be removed, because he's not going to have part in my son's inheritance. Why the Lord said, hey, no, no, no? But Isaiah 46:10, the Lord declared the end from the beginning. And he's going to do all his pleasure. It was his pleasure to remove Ishmael. If he was establishing this promise, Ishmael should have stayed. The Lord, come on, man. Come on. Where is that? Okay, this is Genesis 17:16. And I will bless her and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed, and said in his heart, shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah that is 90 years old bear? And Abraham said unto God, oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, right? Which goes into laughter, right? It says, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And that even lines back up with 1 Chronicles, the 16th chapter, right? Because the descendants of Isaac was going to get that everlasting covenant, which, who was the descendant that got the law? Jacob. And then who was the descendant under Jacob that got the everlasting covenant? Israel. They say nothing about Esau, man. That's why the Lord declared the end from the beginning, and he's going to do all his pleasures. That's why Esau, through the Spirit, sold his birthright, because that was an example of how wicked he was. He didn't care about his own descendants, where he just gave up his birthright, knowing the firstborn, but um, but Jacob understood it. That's why he asked for it. But it was all written for both of their stories, because the blessing that Esau was gonna get was meant for Jacob, for his descendants, to rule the earth and the heavens and get all those things, because everything that Jacob is gonna get is all through Yahushua. If Esau would have got that, that would have been the same thing, all through Yahushua. But Esau came out first. The Lord set this whole story up so that it would be fulfilled, that the elder is going to serve the young and serve us forever until that 1,000-year period. That's the mystery, especially when you go back into even if you go in the New Testament and we go back, you got to understand the story about Jacob and Esau. That was something that was supposed to be fulfilled for the end times. Jacob grabbing his heel, that will always be there. Even, oh, he was under Esau's foot. He was a slave under Jacob one time. Yeah, that is true. When in the time of Saul and David and really fully and Solomon, yeah, that's true. But in Genesis 25 don't mean that was going to end, because then it goes back to Cain and Abel, right? Well, I mean, really not Cain and Abel when it deals with the serpent, right? It was always about the left side against the right side, in the spirit and in the physical. In the physical is Jacob and Esau. Those are the main characters out of all nations. Out of all nations. Right? So people want this to be about every nation. They wasn't with us in the gym. In order for them to do the law, they had to convert to our ways. But that still don't make them our nation. Oh, let me use Romans 2:9. You're not a Jew outwardly, you're a Jew inwardly. What does that mean? You got to be an Israelite inwardly, right? Following the Lord inwardly, not one that's an Israelite in the outward appearance. That does not mean if you were a Jew inwardly that through blood and nationality you're not an Israelite. No, I mean and you could be an Israelite if you are one inwardly, but nationality wise you're not one. No, that can't be it. Can't be it. That's crazy. That's super crazy. So back to Ephesians, the 3rd chapter, verse 7, it says, whereof I was made a minister according to the gift of the grace of God given unto me by the effectual working of his power. Right? And truly, when we really think about it, this is grace to the Lord. This is favor. And his favor is only to the children of Israel. Right? Now, let me read this too, because this is just a classic. This is just a shotgun. I'm going to a shotgun. So, if, put your bulletproof vest on. Let me just read this real quick. When we go into 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter, verse 54. It says, after these, thou madest Adam, whom thou hast set as Lord over all that thou hast made. Of him come we all, and the people also whom thou hast chosen. So all nations come from Adam, and even those that are chosen come from Adam. All this have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou madest the world for our sakes. Now, Ezra is even talking about himself. The last joint that we read was, and the people also whom thou hast chosen, because Ezra is an Israelite. So in the next verse, the Lord made the world for the children of Israel's sake. Right? We were supposed to rule. This is supposed to be ours, right? Under the power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Verse 56, and as for the other people who which also come of Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing, but to be like unto spittle, and has likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel. And even Isaiah said this. So all the other nations that come from Adam are spittle. So even if when you go to the New Testament, it's not trying to be tricky. But we're in the New Testament, we're going to hear that the Lord said that the other nations not spittle anymore. You know? Verse 57, it says, now, O Lord, behold, these heathen which have ever been reputed as nothing have begun to be lords over us and to devour us. But we, thy people, whom thou hast called thy firstborn, none of the other nations were called thy firstborn, thy only begotten, are given unto their hands. And that's another symbolic thing for us being symbolic to Yahushua, right? It says, if the world now be made for our sakes, this is Ezra speaking about the Israelites, why do we not possess our inheritance of the world? How long shall this endure? How long is this going to endure? It's going to endure until the end of Esau, which is in this same chapter. 2nd Ezra 6 and 9. Esau's the end of the world, and Jacob is that followeth. So that means what we're reading Ezra's, because at the time of Ezra's, that was in the Persian Medes. So that means Esau had to rule the Greek captivity, the Roman captivity, to fulfill the third beast in Daniel, the 7th chapter, in the fourth beast, and to be the revival of the fourth beast in Daniel 7, verse 8. So again, and even though we did with Ezekiel 37, right, in order for us to get that, Esau must fall. But before Esau fall, the son, the man, the son of perdition has to be revealed. So if the man of sin has to be revealed, how do we be revealed? By teaching. But if he's being revealed, what else is being revealed? The mystery, the gospel, the law, the parables, the dark sayings, the prophecies. All those things are being revealed in this time right now. Because even in apostle time, even though it's probably other times they was getting into the prophecies and explaining that, but majority, as soon as we get to Paul, it was all about teaching the Gentiles. Because then eventually, what was going to happen? Why would Paul write in 2 Thessalonians 2 and 3? It was going to be a falling away. Because after all of this, after what they had to do as apostle and die as a witness in that time, because to be a cloth for the Lord, a lot of apostles had to die for that truth. And that was for the other believers, because there was other ones that didn't die that was walking in their lot. And that's going to be the example on this side, because history merely repeats itself. So if it started with the sons of God, then it went to the Israelites, then the Israelites, then the Israelites fell away, then it's the Israelites again, and then you hear about Gentiles. We're in the time right now that is always dealing with the Israelites. Ecclesiastes, he said is no done away of the people. So that means all nations is on the earth. If all nations on the earth, that means the Israelites is on the earth, and they're going to get everything that was promised to them. So we went through a lot of precepts just to give the sense. Let me read verse 8. Ephesians 3 and 8 says, unto me, whom am less than the least of all saints, is this grace given, that I shall preach among the Gentiles the unsearchable riches of Hamashiach. Now, he said he's the least of all the saints. Let's go to this. This is what a saint is, right? And we got multiple verses, but this right here is going to just go straight to the point of saints. This is Psalms 50 and 5. Gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. Exodus 24 and 7, Deuteronomy 33 and 3. Only the Israelites made a sacrifice, made a covenant with the Lord by sacrifice. So the saints are only Israelites. So the Gentiles that come in this thing, that are faithful, right? Their sacrifice, of course, is Yahushua, right? But that goes back. If anybody believes in reincarnation, regeneration, them same Gentiles are the ones that we see in Romans 11 that were part of the original branches that got grafted back in. But it just deals with the elect, because the Lord cut off the righteous and the wicked. None of the wicked is getting in this truth. So we got to make it make sense. That's why you got to speak about the elect, right? This is Ezekiel 21 and 4. It says, seeing then that I will cut off from thee the righteous and the wicked, therefore shall my sword go forth out of his sheath against all flesh from the south to the north. Right? So even the righteous is getting cut off and the wicked. But the righteous are always going to come back because everything has to be fulfilled in its point of time. Everything. None of us can get in this truth unless the Lord enable you. We seen Paul, 1 Timothy 1 and 12. He says, Yahushua Mashiach enable me because he found me faithful. None of us can get in this thing unless the Lord enable us. And that truly just go into you being the elect, right? Judas was even in this thing. Now you will look, oh, he was enabled, but then he betrayed Yahushua. So he was set up to be in this thing, and he was set up to betray Yahushua. So guess what? It's going to be people that come in this thing that might look like they in this thing and be imposters. That goes with 2 Timothy 3 and 13. Judas was an imposter, but he was set up so that he could betray Yahushua. And there's many false teachers that are betraying Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua to come in this thing looking like a sheep, but an actual wolf. And through the spirit, they're not going to come out, I'm a wolf, I'm a wolf. Even the Pharisees thought that they was doing the Lord's job. So even with the dude saying he's debunking Hebrew Israelites, outside of that, you're not teaching the gospel to edify people, let alone this goes back to what spirit people in. You're not bringing out prophecy. So for you to bring out Ezekiel the 37th chapter and then come and bring out Ephesians and think the Lord changed it up, that fulfilling the Gentiles is still the Israelites. And that's another thing a lot of you Jake don't understand. Scripture-wise, Jake's name was removed out of the earth. We got it back by faith, believing that we are the Israelites. First, by dealing with prophecies, what is said in the scriptures that, oh, that pertain to the African Americans, that pertain to the Latinos, that pertain to the natives. And then you find out that you are African American. But we know certain people that would hear a lot of these things in the scriptures and get offended. Some of the brothers that might look like a Jake ain't a Jake, and they get offended at what's coming out. And guess what? It's some Jake that look like an Edomite or would be like, yo, yeah, man, Esau wicked. And through the spirit, they actually might most likely is a Jake. Then you find out who their grandfather is, right? Actual Cherokee, man. Got roots in history, you know. All Jake born on this side, after, that fulfillment of slavery on this side, all Jake did not know that it was Israelites until 1969, until brothers start teaching it. And to truly believe that you're an Israelite is to truly walk in it. That goes back to Romans 2 and 29, to be a Jew inwardly. A lot of people ain't Israelites if they're not walking it inwardly, right, and being a light in the world like Bruce Leroy, right? So when we even talk about the fulfillment of the Gentiles, that fulfillment fully is going to happen in our time, because all Jake were Gentiles, right? Even before Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, in 1776, Jake did not know shit. Jake didn't know nothing. Between 19 and between 1689, Jake didn't know nothing. Then the Lord started whispering in the ear of the men of the Lord in 1669 or the late 50s, and then eventually it started to blossom. But Jake had a Gentile mindset. That's what y'all, just because we saying we Israelites now, y'all really don't understand prophecy. Understand it was we were in a grave, a dead estate for 350 years. And half of y'all don't even understand Revelations 11, verse 7 to 11. You don't. So, Lord wanted this edifying. It was edifying for me. I thought I was going to go into something else, but that was just in my head all last night. But I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to the one true power that always makes it possible. Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, the Wadi Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Shai, for allowing us to be edified. Lord willing, we can continue to magnify your name. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elders of great millstone who rule well and teach well through the Spirit. And the mighty shalom to the hopeful elect in the same Spirit, teaching his word and believing in his word in sound doctrine. Lord willing, y'all all can continue to endure and be sincere in the same Spirit. Shalom to the Akwat Yom, believers in his faith and his truth. And Lord willing, the most have mercy on the other brothers and sisters that's not in faith. Shalom, shalom, above, above.